I'm going to have you do something. Sharon and I were very privileged this last year to move into a very prestigious house in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We moved into the former residence of Oral and Evelyn Roberts. And for some of you that you're familiar with Oral Roberts too, or you, but you might not know the impact that this man had. One of the greatest spiritual leaders of the last 100 years. The largest healing tent, 10,000 person tent. The #1 Christian television program on secular media. Oral Roberts University. The City of Faith that opened up today, it would have cost $250 million. It opened up debt-free. But more than that, the concepts he introduced to us: seed faith, healing hands, expect a miracle. And that's the office that I have in Tulsa. What a privilege to be there. But Oral said something shortly before he passed away that I thought was very profound. He was talking about reasons why people do not receive from God or don't have breakthroughs, and he made this statement. He said, the problem with most people is they are echoes. They echo what the negative media says, they echo what their negative friends say, and they don't realize that death and life is in the power of our tongue. He went on to say, if you're going to have a breakthrough, you have to make a decision. And the decision is you're going to be a voice and not an echo. That you don't echo the negatives, you don't echo where you are, you don't echo the problems, but you be a voice of the future, a voice of God's word. And when you do that, you change the environment that you live in. The invisible environment where everything takes place. So I think tonight, before we do anything else, let's create an environment of increase. Well, first of all, how many of you want to increase? I'm in the right place. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to find 3 people and just say to them, I am ready for fresh increase. Thank you. You can be seated. Well, it is so great to be back with you. I want you to know I love this couple. If they said, Bob, could you stay overnight just so we could go to dinner, I would stay just to be with these two. So the rest of you is a bonus. That's the way I look at it. We have so many more than 2 here. And I just admire you for coming out. I know my Friday night, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, the water main out, wind blowing. I mean, so many reasons not to come. You know, some people depressed because Green Bay lost so badly, then the Steelers lose so badly. I mean, there's all these reasons not to be here. So I just admire you. I applaud you for, let's applaud each other for coming tonight. See, you're my kind of audience because I would rather speak to people that choose to be somewhere where it's not convenient to be than just those that show up because it's a habit. Because you're people that are open to change. You're people that are ready for God to speak in a fresh way. So we're going to have an exciting time tonight. Just great to be with you. And a bonus for me tonight is I have a very special person in my life with me tonight, and that is my wife. And she doesn't get to travel very many times with our meetings, and she's very selective, where she goes. And when she found out we were going to be here with you, she said, I want to come to that meeting. So she flew over here, and it's so great to have Sharon. Many of you know Sharon's daughter. She was here a few weeks ago, Jenny Stavali. And what an anointed... Jenny's just a takeoff after her mom. Her mom is one of the most creative people I've ever been around in my life, and just so full of fresh ideas and creativity. And you just walk in a room, and the room brightens up if she's there. And she's a writer, an author, a speaker, musical producer, just so many talents. She said when she grows up, she's going to decide which one she wants to do. But great to have her here. I know many of you have heard me speak when I've been here before. But some of you, this is the first time. And I don't want to get into a long bio. It's not necessary, but I think just a little capsule might be good. Because the way I speak is a little bit different than what you might be used to. And that is because I do not come from a theological background, although I did graduate I did go attend Oral Roberts Graduate School of Theology. I do have a doctorate in theology, but I come from a business background. And a businessman is always searching for what works and then fine-tunes the thing that works. And he's geared towards simplification. My dad was a doctor of theology. He was one of the first 5 people that Oral Roberts hired to open up ORU to recruit faculty. And I listened to my dad's teaching, and my dad was so good at taking simple things and making them complicated. I'm trying to figure out, what did he just say? And I said, I'm going to be the opposite. I want to take complicated things and make them simple. Because that's what a business person does. Your message, your advertising, your marketing, it's got to be simple. And so tonight we're going to look at one of those keys. But I had a miracle turnaround of a Chrysler dealership in Southern California. I took it from bankruptcy to top 10 in 90 days' time. And as a result of that, I got launched into Speaking Arena, and that's been over 30 years now, and millions of miles traveling around the world, teaching people on the subject of increase. And what is increase? Let's before we get going tonight, let's talk about that to make sure we're on the same page. Increase is not necessarily a message about making more money, although normally that is a manifestation of it. You see it in the financial arena. But increase is a teaching about how we process information differently. See, all of us are pre-programmed, preconditioned on how we're going to respond to any stimuli. And when that stimuli comes forth, our reaction is determined before the stimuli happens. At 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever it was here, they made an announcement on television a few weeks ago that Donald Trump won the election. Some people screamed and yelled and other people cried. Their reaction was determined before the announcement was made, based upon their political beliefs. Well, that is true in any area of life. And it's particularly true in the financial area. And the problem with people in the financial area is most of them have been pre-programmed to think scarcity, barely get along, and how to survive. And that's the way we interpret life. So what we try to do is teach people how to retrain that, and all of a sudden they see ideas and opportunities and things that are out there right now, but we've missed them because we weren't preconditioned to grab them. So increase does affect people financially, but it affects them in other areas of their life. Let me read you what Harvey wrote me. It's a good example. Within 6 months, my income doubled. Now that's not too bad. How many like to double your income in the next 6 months? Okay. Let me try it again. How many would like to have your income double in the next 6 months? Okay. All right. We're doing better. All right. But now look at the rest. Relationships. My wife and I are running around like 2 teenagers in love. Spiritual. I've gotten more involved in my church. Physical. I've been totally cured of cancer and I lost 75 pounds. Wow. Every area of his life was changed. Why? Because his thinking changed. You know, when you catch this mindset, it can even add longevity to your life. Do we have that picture there? I can't see behind me. But the picture of my mother, can we pull that one up? Are we doing any of these? Are we rolling? Have we seen any or not? I don't know. Okay, good. Thank you. That is my mom on her 90th birthday. Sharon organized a birthday banquet party for her. We had over 300 people there. She put on these musical productions of characteristics of my mom. Like she created a musical number for wearing all these different hats and different things. And then at the end, they had my mom, they had a big birthday cake come out as they're singing happy birthday. And everybody expected my mom to walk out. She didn't walk out. She was in, let me show this. Next one. Yeah, my mom was in the cake. So it pops up, hi everybody! and to celebrate her 90th birthday, my mom and I swam 90 laps in the pool together. She would swim 30 laps 3 times a week. She drove around Laguna Beach in a convertible. So when you get increased thinking, it even adds longevity and vitality to your life. And it can affect you even in little things. I was flying a had to fly in Jamaica. I finished a conference on Friday night, and on Sunday morning I was in Montego Bay, and Sunday morning I was speaking in Kingston, and the only way to get between the two cities is Air Jamaica. And so I went out to the airport on Saturday morning to do my flight, and I just walked up to the ticket counter, put my bag in the counter, and then the lady said something startling to me. She said, "That'll be $50 for the bag." Now, that might not be startling to you, but I haven't had anybody ask me to pay for a bag in so long, it took me by surprise. Because I'm a top-level flyer with American Airlines, I get to check 3 bags free for 70 pounds each. You know, if I fly Delta, my bag's free. United, my bags are free. Now, this lady's saying $50 for a bag. So after I grabbed myself composure, I said, "Oh, yeah, I don't have any way to..." So I pull out my credit card. Now, catch this. And I go to give her the credit card to put the $50 on. Now, my conscious mind is programmed to obey authority. But my subconscious mind is pre-programmed, and it automatically all day long thinks like this: is there a deal? Is there another way? Do you have to pay the money? Because that's the way an increased thinker operates. Because if you're not putting out the signals, you're not going to, find them. So I'm handing her the card. So conscious says the card goes to her. But the subconscious, the whole time it's going that way, is trying to bring it back this way, because $50 saved is better than $50 made. No taxes. Okay. So just before she gets the card, my subconscious says, "Pull it back." So I pull it back. She looks kind of startled. Like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I have a question. In America, there are certain airlines, such as Alaska Airlines. And if you get to the airport to check in and they have empty first class seats, you can upgrade for $50, $100 for a nominal amount to first class because they fill the front of the plane." I said, do you have a program like that?" She said, "Oh, yes, we do." She said, "If you want for $50, you could fly first class." I said, "Put 50 on my card." Now that 50 didn't bother me. And so she processes it, she hands me my card back, and then I turn to her and I say, "By the way, first class passengers get free bags, right?" She said, "Right." No, some of you caught this. Some of us haven't caught it yet. Okay. This is a picture of increase. The back of the plane is full of people that bought a coach ticket, paid $50 for a bag. They're all packed in the back. Up front. 2 of us in recliners. 1 flight attendant for 2 people. It was like a private jet. We got a coach ticket. We paid $50 for an upgrade. What separated the people in the back from the people in the front? It wasn't what they paid for the ticket. It wasn't how much money they made. It wasn't what car they drove. It wasn't their ethnic background. It wasn't how they were dressed. Only one thing separated the people in the back from the people in the front: their thinking. Oh, by the way, the plane had 8 first class seats. There were only 2 of us that were there. 6 more people crammed in the back in coach could have been having the same experience we had if they would have had the same thinking. Are we settling for riding in the back when God has special seats for us up front? And when we change our thinking, we'll change our lives. Some of you are wondering, what is this Seahawks shirt doing up here? Didn't they lose? Yeah, but it was a gallant effort. I want to talk to you tonight, not about the Seahawks, although they are one of my favorite teams, because I think Pete Carroll is an increased thinker. It doesn't matter if they're down 31-0 in the playoffs. He thinks they can still win the game, and they almost did. They just the most innovative play calling. The games are so exciting. It's just like incredible. But we're not doing the Seahawks tonight. I want to talk to you about the number 8. The Hebrew number 8. Because if you would catch what I have caught and discovered about this number can represent a new life for you. This number can represent this as a breakthrough year for you. And so that's what we're going to look at. Before we do, by the way, I just, Pastor mentioned that you're going to be receiving an offering for a ministry at the end. And I just want to thank you in advance. What you help us to do is to take this teaching literally around the world and the impact that this message has. One example, do we have a picture? I don't know if I mentioned it to you. Do we have the picture of me with the guy in the book? Yeah. That man is Silas Melafia. I met Silas several years ago. I was speaking at a disastrous meeting in Florida. It was supposed to be a banquet of leaders, of 250 leaders, and it ended up to be a banquet of 38 people, most of them not leaders. But anyway, and with the $200 guarantee for the meals, 200-person guarantee that they had to pay for. And so it was just looked like a horrible meeting, and it was and I had to have an interpreter because they all spoke Portuguese, and my interpreter was horrible. And halfway through the meeting, he kept going through the meeting. He kept asking somebody in the audience, "What did he say? What did he say?" And somebody in the audience was doing the interpreting rather than my interpreter. You talk about frustration. Halfway through the meeting, the guy up here says, "Why don't you come up and do this?" And I don't know if he was mad or whatever. So the guy in the audience came up and became my interpreter. Afterwards, he said, "I have a friend that has a ministry in Brazil. He has a big ministers conference. 2,000 ministers and leaders is taking place in 4 weeks. He said, they need this teaching. If we could arrange for you to come, could you work it in your schedule?" I said, "For that, I will make it happen." And 4 weeks later, I met this person, and he was the head of the association. I didn't fully know the impact that teaching had on his life and on the country until this last summer. We went back and spoke at their church. Do we have I think the next pictures, we should have a picture of the church, do we? That's the church. He now has not only one of the largest churches in the country, he has the largest television ministry in the country with a budget of $1 million a month. And as we were talking at lunch, he said, "I want you to know that we have 300 employees. We have the largest television ministry." He said, "It's all happened because of you and the teaching of Increase." He said, "That conference that you came to changed our ministry and changed our life." So that's what you help us to do. I want you just to catch a vision of when you seed, you're helping us to impact nations. And so we just really appreciate that. I also want to extend you an invitation. If you're a business owner, a sales achiever, or a leader, we are this year celebrating our 35th Hawaii Increase event. Yes, 35 years we've been coming to the islands and bringing leaders and achievers from around the world. And it's going to be held the second week of March. And it's going to be at the Westin Resort. And you get, as residents of Hawaii, you get to come for half price. Come on a special. And so if you want to get information on it, we have flyers back there. It's a very different seminar or conference. We do 4 to 7 speakers a day, and we're done at 1 o'clock. Because we give you an opportunity to idea exchange and to fellowship with some of the greatest leaders that are around. And some of the greatest things that happen at our event are not what happens in the ballroom. It's the connections that are made outside the ballroom. And so if you want information on that, that's available back at the table. Turn to 1 Samuel. Well, you don't have to turn to it. I'm just going to use 1 Samuel. I'll talk about the story. Because you're all familiar with the story in 1 Samuel, but we're going to look at it from a different light tonight. We're going to look at it from the light of the number 8 and what that number 8 can mean for you and how an understanding of it can change your life. So let's set the stage. God speaks to the prophet Samuel, and he said, "I want you to go to the house of Jesse, and I want you to anoint one of Jesse's sons to be the next king of Israel." So we find the prophet now arrives at the house, and when he walks in, this is what he sees. There stands Jesse and 7 of Jesse's sons. The prophet's attention is immediately drawn to the eldest son. And he goes over to anoint the eldest son. And as he reaches out to anoint the eldest son, God's voice speaks and says, "Stop!" That's the wrong one. And let's stop here for a minute. We're all trained from back who knows when to be sensitive to God's leading, God's releasing, and God's direction. And that's a valid teaching. We need to be sensitive to that. But we also need to be sensitive to the other voice of God, and that voice is stop. Don't just be looking for the goes, but be sensitive to the stops. And the higher you go up in leadership, the more important the word no and stop is, and the less important the word go and yes is. In time management, when you're starting, go out wherever you can. I remember when I got started in speaking, if you whatever, I didn't care where it was or what we had to do, yes, because I'm trying to make contacts. I'm trying to build and get better, and so yes. But the higher up I go, the more no becomes important. In any arena of life, the higher up you go, the more important no becomes. But not only that, I can't tell you how many great leaders, ministry, Christian business leaders, have lost everything in one day because they didn't listen to and heed to the no. Now, let's look at this for a minute. Let's go historically. What if the prophet didn't recognize or heed the no voice? Now think of the consequences. If he didn't heed the no and he anointed the wrong person, the eldest son would have been the next king of Israel. David would have never fought Goliath. The tribe of Israel would have had to fight the Philistines, and they might have lost the war and gone into captivity, and all of history would have been rewritten because one person missed a no. Think of the consequences of it. All right, let's stay here for just a minute. If the prophet of the land, the interpreter of God's will, almost anoints the wrong one, how sensitive do we have to be to making a mistake? So what can we learn? Why did he almost anoint the wrong one? The Bible tells us. It says he walked into the room and he was attracted to the eldest one because he was tall in stature and he looked like a king. If you're going to be successful in any arena of life, particularly if you're a business person or doing anything of marketing or garage sales or anything, you have to realize that people are moved by what they see. People are moved by what they see. You never get a second chance at a first impression. And so I would say to you, if you've been struggling, you need a breakthrough, step back and ask yourself, if who I'm trying to reach comes to my website or sees me or sees our company trucks or sees our product or whatever it might be, what do they think? What do they feel? Does it attract them, or do they have to pull back? Sometimes I do seminars, and what did we do to turn that dealership around? And I said to them, the very first thing I did was walk across the street and I looked at the dealership. And I said, if somebody drives up to this store, what do they think and what do they feel? And I said, I realized it looked like a bankrupt store, and I realized nothing I would do would work until I changed that first impression. And the very first thing I did to save a Chrysler dealership that was on the verge of going under was hire a landscaper. You say, why? Because I had to change that first appearance. But with that understanding, here we go. Increased thinkers go beyond that. And they start to train themselves not to be moved by what they see. Because they recognize that sometimes the greatest people and the greatest deals might not at first appear to be that way. Let me give you an example. I want to show you a picture of our headquarter building in Tulsa when we bought it. That's what it looked like. It was in the area near Oral Roberts University. It was we got a great deal on it. But see, I bought that. That couldn't be my headquarters the way it is, but I bought that building because I didn't see the way it was. I saw what it could become. Let's show you what it looks like today. That's the same building, right? Some of you might have heard of the story of the house that I was able to buy near Southern Hills Country Club in Tulsa. And I moved into that house for $1 down and nothing a month. You've heard me talk about that? Let me show you a picture. Nobody was making any offers in the house. The lawn was dying. The shutters were falling off. It needed a roof. The kitchen looked like an apartment kitchen. Negative, 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 negative. But see, I was able to negotiate an incredible deal. Why? I didn't see the way it was. I saw what it could become. Let me show you what that house became. Same house. So you've got to train yourself not to see things the way they are, but the way they can become. All right, let's move on. So now the prophet is reaching out to anoint the eldest son, and God says no. And so he stops. What do you do if you think you've got it all put together, that you know the answer, and you get a no? Whether it's from the banker, or whether it's from the car loan people, or whether it's from God. How do you respond to that no? Well, another aspect of increased thinking, increased thinkers always believe that there's more than one option. In fact, one of my famous sayings is, except in faith and marriage, always have a backup. And so the average person might be stymied when they get the no, but see, the prophet wasn't. It said, what did he do? He just, oh, it's not him, must be the next one. He wasn't moved by that no, because he saw there were 6 other options in the room. Always try, if you can, to have other options. That's why I have 2 banks. That's why I carry a driver's license and a passport with me. I try to always have a backup, another option. So he goes to number 2, no. 3, no. 4, no. Hey, we're running out of options. 5, no. 6, no. 7, no. He didn't have a problem before, but he's got one now. And the problem is, he's tried every option that he knows that exists, and he's gotten a no. There were 7 options in the room, and all he got was no. So what do you do? If you've tried every option you know to try, and all you hear is a no, do you quit? Do you try again? Do you scream? Do you cry? What do you do? Oh, by the way, in the Hebrew language, numbers have word meanings. So every number has a word meaning. Let me tell you the meaning of the number 7. Completion. That's all there is. 7 days in a week. That's all there is. 7 colors in a rainbow. That's all there is. That's why Stephen Covey called his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He wanted to tell you that's all there is. So now the prophet has a room full of 7 no's, and his belief system, based on his understanding of the Hebrew language, says that's all there is. And that's where the road ends for most people. But see, I believe that the prophet was an increased thinker. And the reason is because of the next thing that came out of his mouth. He turns to Jesse and he said, Jesse, do you have any more sons? Jesse, I've gotten 7 no's. What I want to know, is there a number 8? And Jesse says, yes, I have one more son. He's my son David, but he's not in the room. He's out standing in the field. Oh, by the way, don't have time to teach on it tonight, but if you want to be noticed, make a decision. You're going to be outstanding in your field. Make excellence a keynote of everything you do so that you're noticed because you're so good. So they brought David into the room, and God said, that's him. When number 8 enters your room, now catch this. This is going to help some of you. Don't get so discouraged and so down on all the no's. No's only have power until yes shows up. It didn't take 8 yeses to walk into the room to overcome the power of 7 no's. When one yes walked into the room, instantly all 7 no's lost their power. All you need is one yes. One yes. And when that yes shows up, your life is going to change. Turn to the person next to you and say, my yes is coming. My yes is coming. So, what does the number 8 mean? If 7 means that's all there is, what does number 8 mean? Number 8 means transcending limitations, going beyond normal. Transcending limitations, going beyond normal. See, it's no accident that in Orthodox Jewish homes, male babies are not circumcised in the hospital or on the first day. They are circumcised at a ceremony on the 8th day. Because the parents are saying, we are not raising a son that is normal. We are raising a son that is going to be beyond normal. And that's why they choose the 8th day. Because they recognize this meaning of the number 8. So let's stay with this a minute. Where did they find the number 8? They didn't find him in the room full of no's. They had to go outside the walls of the room full of no's to find the 8. An increased thinker believes that the answer that they need already exists and is waiting for them. The idea they need is already there. The strategy they need is already there. The money they need is already there. It's just not in the room full of no's. They've got to get outside the walls to find it. Now sometimes it's physical walls. We got to get outside the physical walls and to find it. When God wanted to speak to Abraham, he took him outside the walls of the tent. He said, come out of your tent. Only when he came out of his tent could he say, look at the stars. He couldn't see the stars in the tent. He had to take him physically outside of those walls to see his destiny and to see his future. Sometimes if you're stumped and you don't know what to do, just go for a walk. Just get out, take a break, whatever it might be. Get outside the physical walls and you're going to find your answer. But we're looking at tonight is not physical walls. What we're looking tonight is mental walls. Because see, everybody in this room thinks and dreams and operates within the walls of our thinking. That's where our dreams take place, our ideas take place, our expectations take place. Everything's in those walls. And the problem is we operate in those walls and we're not finding the answer. We're not finding the increase that we want. We begin to want to accept where we are. We think that's it. And all the time on the outside of the mental walls is our answer. The life we're believing for. The life that God wants us to have. But we settle to live within the walls instead of going outside the walls. It's as if we have an invisible fence. Do you know there is actually a product called an invisible fence? You can buy it. They guarantee that this will keep your dog in the yard as effectively as you go out and buy a chain link fence. What it is you buy 4 transponders, you put them on poles, they send out electronic signal, you put a collar on the dog, and if the dog gets near that signal, it irritates the collar and the dog pulls back. And that invisible fence will keep the dog in the yard. We have an invisible fence. And when we begin to reach out, all of a sudden, discomfort, tradition, fear, I don't belong there. All these forces begin to irritate our collar and we pull back. And we begin to accept the life inside the fences. So if you want to make this a breakthrough year, If you want to make this the year when the Hebrew number 8 begins to work in your life, the first thing you have to do is make a decision. And the decision is that you are not going to let discomfort, fear, tradition, and feeling out of place keep you where you are. That you're going to recognize that discomfort is not a negative, discomfort is a positive, and all it really means is I'm getting near change. Discomfort is a sign of change. When I was little and I was growing and my feet started to hurt in the shoes I was in, what did that say? That just meant nothing other than my feet were growing, so I was feeling discomfort. So for goodness sakes, get new shoes. So the first key is make a decision beginning this week that you are not going to let fear and discomfort and tradition hold you anymore. That you're going to start going outside the wall. And when you go outside the wall, you're going to transcend that discomfort. The next time if you go out to eat at a restaurant this week, this isn't radical. Just go to one better restaurant level. If you're going to rent a car, you've been getting the subcompact that has pedals on it, go one better. If you're staying at a hotel, go one better. Just start making choices that take you up a little bit of discomfort. Because if you try to embrace too much at once, you might give up. You might not stick with it. But if you just step by step start embracing it, you're going to begin to get out there. And when you get out there, you discover things, ideas, thoughts, people, experiences that you hadn't had before. Now, if you do this for a few times, or several times, a strange phenomenon is going to take place. And let me tell you what it is. It's found in the prayer of Jabez. And Jabez cried out and said, Lord, enlarge my territory. In other words, you initially go out and you visit strange territory. But as you do that, your walls begin to move. And one day you're going to wake up and guess what you're going to find? Number 8 is no longer outside the walls. Number 8 is in your walls. Because the walls have moved out to include the number 8. And when that happens, your life takes on a whole different dimension. This is a good illustration. A few years ago now, my daughter Michelle called me and was telling me that the 3 girls, she has 3 daughters, that they all got full-ride volleyball scholarships or were offered full-ride volleyball scholarships to ORU. And, why pay to go to school if they'll let you go free? This is, if we have a different thinking, you parents, if your kids are excellent in high school, it'll save you thousands of dollars. Because colleges and universities are looking for talented, athletically talented, and academically talented kids. So you could look at it this way. A scholarship to ORU would be worth roughly $25,000 a year. So her kids got paid $25,000 a year in high school. You could say that. So they could go to college free. All right, so anyway, so she said, we need to get them a car. And they decided they're going to call it Xterra, Nissan. And so she found one at a dealer and she said, what do you think? And I said, well, that's a good price, but it's not great. I said, what if you went outside the walls of a dealership? And now you went online and you searched within a 100-mile radius of Tulsa. If you move the walls out, might you find, a better deal? So she did that and found one in Oklahoma City for $18,000. So by moving the walls out now, she saved herself $4,000. That's not too bad. So she then called me and said, now what do you think? I said, that's really good. I said, I'd probably get it, but before I do that, I would move the walls again. Why don't you go for a 250-mile search and include Dallas, Texas? She did that and found the same car for $12,000 instead of $22,000, saved $10,000 and bought that car. Why? She moved the walls. She enlarged the territory. And just like she increased the search engine, and when she increased the walls of the search engine, she increased the possibilities. When you begin to move your walls, all of a sudden, these ideas, these strategies, these people that used to be outside the wall are now a part of your world. And so I just challenge you today. Number one, make a decision. You're going to break through discomfort. And you're going to start doing things you hadn't do before and have experiences you hadn't had before. Because feelings follow action for winners. For losers, actions follow feelings. So make a decision tonight that you're going to be a person that lets your feelings follow your actions. Your feelings aren't going to control your life anymore. Number two, move the walls and let number 8 come in. When you do this, it will not only make a difference in your life, it'll make a difference in the life of those that are around you. For years, we've had a second home in the Palm Springs, La Quinta area of Southern California. It's a desert resort community with over 100 golf courses. If you are any kind of a golf fan, you notice that when they finish playing over here at the country club over by Kahala, at the Sony Open, the next tournament is at the country club we live at, La Quinta Country Club in Palm Springs area. That's the next tournament. And they just, I don't know who won today, but somebody set an all-time record of 59 yesterday in our area. But anyway, and what was I going to tell you about that story? Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't going to tell that part of it. Oh, yeah, okay. We had a real problem in the area for years with education. The problem is that the 7 cities that make up Palm Springs area collectively only have a population base of about 350,000. And the University of California system and the California State College system did not consider that to be a big enough population base to have a university or a campus. So if any of the students that lived in that area wanted to pursue education after their 2 years, they had to drive 60 miles into Riverside or San Bernardino each way in order to go to class. So the people in the area were frustrated. They tried to solve the problem. They appealed to the University of California. They appealed to California State. No. All they got was a room full of no's. And it would have stayed that way, except there were 2 increased thinkers that believed there was a yes outside of the room full of no's. They scheduled a meeting with the president of the University of California. He came to the meeting at a luncheon with leaders and civic and business leaders, and they asked him again. He said, no, we can't do it. It's not in the budget. Maybe 15 to 20 years from now we could do it. They said, okay, now here we go, outside the wall. What if we gave you the land free to build the university? Would you then open it up? He said, well, that would help, but no, we still don't have the budget for the buildings. He said, okay, what if we gave you the money for the buildings and you could build it free? Then would you give us a university? They said, if you give us the land and you give us the buildings, you will have a university. Those 2 increased thinkers, that's all they needed to hear. They got Palm Desert to donate the land. In 90 days' time, they raised $10 million. In another 90 days, they raised another $10 million. And today, there is a California State University, Riverside, and a University of California, San Bernardino campus in Palm Desert. Why? Because 2 increased thinkers. Because they thought differently. They impacted others, not just themselves. So I want to challenge you tonight. And the reason I'm here is I believe there's some of you, you have no idea the increase that's going to come in your life this year. And what we're sharing tonight is the key. It's the key. And as you begin to do what I've told you to do, ideas and strategies and people and money is going to show up. It's going to show up because it's already there. See, let's go back to Cal State University. They didn't print $20 million. The $20 million was already there. They just came up with a project that attracted it. See, when you catch that, it changes your life. So if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to say, this is my year of number 8, this is my year of yes. No's are going to lose their power. Yeses are taking over. If that's you, I want to let's do a confession together. Raise your hand. Say, Bob, that's me. Let's say this together. Father, I come to you today, and I thank you for your word. And your word clearly shows you want me to increase. So I make a decision. This is my year. My year to increase. And I thank you now. And I praise you for the increase that is coming my way. Now praise and thank him for that increase. Yes, 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 yes. Glory to your name. Praise you, Father. Praise you, Father. Turn to the person next to you and say, yes is coming. Yes is coming. I don't know how many of you have heard of a man named Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is one of the richest people in America, in the world, and 90 different corporations. And Warren Buffett is an increased thinker, because increased thinkers find unusual ways to do things. He was approached by a charity that he really likes for a donation. And he said, well, I could give you so much money, but and that would help you, but I could really increase what I gave you if I could do this. And he gave them an idea, and they said, give it a try. And here was his idea. Rather than write a check for X amount, I'll get other people to write the checks. He said, I'll offer myself to go to lunch with anybody that wants to bid to have lunch with me and talk to me about investment strategies and where I came from and how I did it and all these kind of things. And they can bring 7 of their friends, a lunch of 8. He said, and they can bid on that. So they put the bid out this last year to have lunch with Warren Buffett, $2.5 million for a 3-hour lunch. Now, so I was watching a television program, and they were interviewing Buffett, and they said to him, if somebody's beginning in investing, what would you tell them is the best place to start? What is the best investment that a person can make? And I'm listening. And you know what he said? The greatest investment a person can make is in their thinking. He said, because everything I am and everything I do is because I invested in my mind. I only tell you that because we have some resources at the table. I don't have a road manager. I'm not here to sell products, but we have some. And for some of you, I just want to encourage you. If we could spend more than the 45 minutes that we've had here tonight together, if over these next month or 2 months I could drive around with you, or I could exercise with you, or I could teach you in the house, whatever it might be, the impact, the change that could take place would be tremendous. And so we have 2 specials that are available to you if you want to avail yourself of the opportunity tonight. The first one, our number 1 selling series, is called The Great Multitude Lifestyle. I taught part of this when I was here last time. It's based upon the story in Luke 5 of how some businessmen went from empty nets to the greatest increase of their life in 24 hours. And we talk about how Jesus changed their thinking, how he changed their strategies. It's very in-depth teaching. It's 6 CDs with an MP3 download. You go to our website, it sells for $95. We have, I think, 6 of them here. You can get them for $69 tonight. And so that's available. If you're not going to listen to the CDs, I mean, you don't need CDs because you're going to download it, which is what I do. Then you can save another $20. We have it available on a download card. And all you do is you just go to the website in the back, you punch in the code, and it all downloads, and you can play it in your iPhone or personal device, whatever it might want to be, and that's only $48. So that's our first special. The second special we have tonight is we have the audio of my book, PowerPoints for Increase. It's 101 Bible-based success strategies, and they're all taught in 4 minutes, each one in 4 minutes. So you have 101 4-minute teaching segments of a Bible-based success strategy. And we share how some great super achiever used it. We give a biblical example of it. It's just a powerful, it's like a devotional, audio devotional for leaders and achievers. And if you want to get that, we have that for $25. And then if you're really serious about change, I think we have 3 of these. This is when I speak in the secular world, we sell more of this than anything else. More of this than books, more of this than audio cards. This is our #1 seller when I do secular meetings. And it's made up of 6 different seminars. The Great Multitude Lifestyle, the one I just told you. Time Increase, don't ask it where to go, don't ask where it went, tell it where to go. How to get rid of time wasters. How to create increase by changing the environment. As I mentioned earlier, anything and everything only works in the right environment. Even Jesus could do very few miracles in Nazareth because of the environment of unbelief. So how do you get an environment to work for you instead of against you? How do you change a negative environment? Break free from the bondage of debt. One of the most unusual teachings on debt that I think is out there today. We have, at the beginning, we teach debt elimination because that's a message that some people need to have. But then if you have self-control and discipline, then there's a different message for you, and it's not debt elimination, it's debt control. 80% of multimillionaires made their money using debt to get their money. And so you can go to a different level, and we teach you the dangers of it, how to recognize it, how to build on it, and so it's a powerful teaching. The next one, if you're going through a difficult time, my newest series is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Palm Trees. Palm trees can thrive in the desert when everything else dies. And what are the characteristics of the palm tree that you can bring into your life? And the last one is inspired by Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. Offense sells the tickets, defense wins the games. And we talk about how to develop defensive strategies in every area of your life. And so if you go on our website, this sells for $595, this package, with all the CDs and the downloads. If you want to get it tonight, it's available for half price. In addition, we will give you free deals, how to save money on everything you buy in the marketplace as a bonus. And so that's available back at the table. You can get it on a 1-pay program. You can get it on a 3-pay program. And so we have that, but I think it's 3 payments of $93 if you want to get that. So that's available back at the table. And then if you want to get it in the download version, you save $50, and that's 3 payments of 80-something. And so we do take Visa, MasterCard, American Express, cash, check, and airline first class upgrades. You might say, what will this do for me? I can't tell you. But let me tell you what it did for Sergio in Phoenix. He came up to me after church, and he said, when you were here a few years ago, I bought your School of Increase. He said, what I learned and applied in my life caused so much change in my thinking. He said, I would pay $5,000 for that series. He caught my attention. And I said, why? He said, when I got that series, I was making $42,000 a year. He said, now I'm making $42,000 every 2 weeks. See, when your thinking changes and you start reaching out there, your life takes on a whole different dimension. I want to end with one story. Are we okay for time with one story? Okay, because otherwise I'll just eliminate it and pray and sit down. Okay. Because it kind of encapsulates everything that I wanted you to catch. I mentioned to you about the home that we have out in Palm Springs, La Quinta. Let me show a picture of that for a minute. Can we put that up? Do we have that handy, the house on the lake? Can you find it? It might be on the... Okay. You know, if you're going to live in the desert, why not live on the water in the desert? Then you don't feel you're in the desert. But anyway... and you might say, what does it cost to get a second home at a gated resort, La Quinta Country Club, 3 bedrooms, 3 bath home? What does that cost? It's something you might dream of someday, but it's outside of the walls, maybe if you're thinking your expectation. But what if your walls were out further? Maybe you'd get the thought that I got. I found out that there's snowbirds that want to come to the desert for 4 months in the winter to get away from the cold. And they will pay good money to have a nice place to stay. I found out that I could rent this place out for 4 months, and 4 months rent would cover 12 months payments. Meaning I could get that house for association fees and taxes. Now ask, could you afford it if it was free? Could you? How many would like to have a vacation home if you didn't have to pay for it? So, but this last year, Sharon and I did an experiment. We wanted to see, could we live in the house in Palm Springs and still operate the ministry in Tulsa? Could we run it by remote control? We tried it and it works, so we're making the transition now to Palm Springs. But when we decided to make the transition, it created a new problem. And the new problem was when we would go out and visit it, we would rent a vehicle. But if you're going to live there, it doesn't make sense to rent a vehicle. It's too expensive. So we needed to get a vehicle. So we're looking around to decide, what are we going to get to drive? And about this time, I had a meeting. The steps of the righteous person are directed of the Lord. We invited Jensen Franklin to have a luncheon at the Ritz-Carlton with the pastor, our pastor of 16 years, one of the greatest experts on the Holy Spirit I've ever heard in my life, Benny Hinn's mentor in the Holy Spirit, a man named Ralph Wilkerson. Used to be head of a church called Melodyland. At his time was the largest charismatic church in the nation. And I wanted the two of them to meet because Ralph is 88 years of age and he has so much knowledge and so much wisdom. I wanted them to meet. Well, we had it all scheduled so that with a half an hour buffer to be able to get out before the traffic backed up on the 91 freeway going out to the desert. Let me show you a picture. That's what it looks like if you missed the window of getting out. Well, it went too long. We missed the window. So I said to Sharon, I said, I don't want to fight the traffic. Let's just go over here to South Coast Plaza. We'll have early dinner. We'll shop for a little while. At 7 o'clock, the traffic will be gone. We'll just whiz out. So I go over there. I walk into a store I haven't been into in over a year. I walk over to the Bugatti shirt rack. And when I walk over there, I hear a voice say, Bob. I didn't pay any attention to it. I don't know anybody there. The voice says, Bob. I turn around. It's a lady with her children, friends and partners of our ministry from Europe. Now think about this for a minute. I'm not supposed to be there. I'm driving to Palm Springs. They're from Europe. And we meet not only at a certain store, we meet at the shirt rack at the certain store. Now, we're only going to be at the shirt rack simultaneously, 15, 30 seconds? Possibility for that meeting? So I find out they'd been in California for a few months. I found out they're going to go back to Europe for a few months. Then they're coming back to California. And I then found out that they had a problem. And they wanted to know if I could help them. I said, what's that? I said, we bought a car while we were here. And we don't know what to do with it while we're gone. I said, I can help you. No, I'm just being nice. They can park it in the garage. Because we got an empty garage. But they said, no, we want you to drive it. So for 3 months, we didn't have to pay for a car. They even covered the insurance. We drove their car free. How many say that's increase? Would you say that's increase? Okay. But then their plans changed. They didn't come back in 3 months. They didn't come back in 6 months. They didn't come back in 9 months. They didn't come back in a year. And all the time, I'm driving their car. Man, I got to like this. But not only were we able to drive their car free. See, when an increase grows, the kind of things that happen to you are going to grow. We didn't just have any old car. I want to show you a picture of the free car that we drove for a year. Could we put that picture up? That is the picture. A Bentley GT V12 driving around free. No.
That's ridiculous.
Isn't that something? The story gets even better. Now, two things I want to share with you, then I'm done. Here we go. Number one, when he handed me the keys, now think of the walls, how difficult it is to accept things that are outside your wall if you don't train yourself to do it. He handed me the keys and I thanked him for trusting me with his Bentley. Window sticker, $215,000 if you're not familiar with Bentleys. So he handed me the keys, and I thanked him. And he said, "You weren't the first person I offered the car to." I said, "What?" He said, "No, I offered it to a friend of mine in Laguna Beach." And he said, "Oh, I really appreciate that." He said, "But I can't drive a Bentley. What would people think?" I said, "I can drive a Bentley. What will people think?" Yeah. Now here's the rest of the story. When they did come back, their plans had changed. They were going back to Europe. They decided they needed to get rid of the car. He phoned, wanted to know if I knew where the title was, which I didn't know. Found out what he was doing, asked him what the dealership was offering him, and the dealer was offering him 50% of what he paid for it, half, on a car with 8,000 miles. And I said, "Give me a day," because I sensed maybe there's a deal here. Maybe I could do something with it. Make a long story short, one of our partners who went from a plumber to owning 800 apartments because of the teaching of increase said, "We believe that that car represents your ministry. We believe you should drive it." They paid for the car. We now drive that car free. That's what God can do for you when you go for increase. Thank you. God bless you.